Hello everyone, and welcome to my latest Fallout 76 build. It appears there's still a little craziness in my blood, so let's use the rest of it up with this character. If you've been wanting to run around West Virginia as an insane murderer, then look no further. As always, there will be timestamps in the description, and I'll be including a link to the Nukes Dragon site as well. The minimum special I have for this build is 11 strength, 1 perception, 4 endurance, 4 charisma, 5 intelligence, 3 agility, and 4 luck. As this is only a minimum special, you'll likely go above most or all of these stats, but this is what you'll need to be able to allocate for all the perks I've got set up specifically for this build. For the perks section, I have it split into 2 parts. The first are the essential perks, those that you must have equipped in order for the build to work, and after that, there's recommended perks, those that add to the build, but which you can live without. To kick things off in Essential, we head to Strength, where I've included Iron Fist, Martial Artist, and Ordnance Express. Iron Fist and Martial Artist are all about boosting our unarmed weapons. Iron Fist raises the base damage, and Martial Artist reduces the weight and increases swing speed. It does say on Martial Artist's melee weapons, however it appears to work for our unarmed weapons too. The point is, you want to make sure you can tear your enemies limb from limb in a few quick swings. Ordnance Express reduces the weight of explosives. For actual grenades, this is a nice little helping hand, but the real key reason this is an essential perk for this build is that it reduces the weight of missiles and 40mm grenades. These are the ammo for some of your weapons, and they will weigh you down like you won't believe. With this perk, you can carry plenty of ammo to share with all the creatures you encounter. As an essential perk for endurance, we have Adamantium Skeleton. This reduces limb damage by either 30%, 60%, or entirely, depending on what rank you get. I personally didn't actually think about adding this perk until right at the end of the build, but throughout my playtesting I kept crippling my limbs on accident. Without this perk, you'll also probably end up with the same affliction, limbs snapping at every turn. Our next essential perk is in Intelligence. Demolition Expert is a great perk. Where most damage perks raise by either 10 or 5% per rank, Demo Expert raises by 20% at each and every rank. This makes explosives absolutely deadly to use, while still not eating up all that many perk points. I personally have this perk at rank 4, but the more the merrier with this one. Finally in Essential, we move on to the luck stat with Bloody Mess. This is a flat damage boost of 5, 10 or 15% across absolutely everything. Extra damage is always nice, but the Bloody Mess visual effect of exploding body parts is also quite fitting for this character. On to our recommended perks now, where we have Travelling Pharmacy and Pack Rat in Strength. These both are here to help with carry weight. This build has some real carry weight issues due to the weapons and ammo being so heavy. Every single perk you can get to help with the carry weight is a huge help. You want to make sure you can chase down your prey after all. No sense in letting them get away just because you're carrying a few too many desk fans. In Perception, I've included the Grenadier perk, which increases explosive detonation radius by 50%. Big boom, bigger boom, big badder boom. Yeah, that's the perk justified. Moving on to Endurance now, we have Ghoulish, Sunkissed, and Photosynthetic. Ghoulish and Photosynthetic are both here to provide some health regen to the build. I was constantly either taking a little damage or knocking a small amount off myself. With a bit of health regen, it means I'm able to heal up without wasting too many valuable aid items. Sunkissed heals radiation damage. This reduces how often you need to use Radaway while still keeping your max hit points nice and high. Something that I didn't use for this build, but which fits in perfectly with its unsettling nature, is Cannibal. There's nothing quite as horrifying at the end of a large battle as watching someone kneel down above one of the corpses and sink their teeth into its flesh. In Charisma, I've included the Lone Wanderer perk. This perk is brilliant, and I'd recommend having it maxed out whenever you're playing alone with this character. Obviously, this is only helpful when playing solo, But there's something about this guy that makes me feel like he's not going to have other warm bodies with him for long. On to intelligence, where I've gone with first aid. The clown isn't all that fond of doctors, so prefers to do his healing himself. With enough practice, he'll get fairly good at it, and that's just what this perk does, boosting how much Stimpaks heal by. In agility, I've included the maxed out Through Hiker perk card. Reducing food and drink weight is so damn useful in this game. You need to eat and you need to drink, so chances are you're going to end up carrying a decent amount of food and drink with you. As I've mentioned before, carry weight can be particularly challenging, especially with this build, so this perk is another real handy one. As the final perk of this build, I've included Serendipity. I really like this perk, even though I'm not certain I can remember it ever triggering. You get a chance to avoid taking damage when below 30% health. Any chance to avoid dying is nice. After all, dying is kind of annoying, and much more suits other people. As weapons for this character, you'll want a 40mm grenade launcher, an unarmed weapon, and the bunker buster. The 40mm grenade launcher works as an explosive weapon that is relatively easy to keep stocked up on ammo. As well as just crafting the grenades themselves, I find a decent number of high-leveled Scorch will drop them, helping you to resupply on the go. This isn't the fastest firing weapon out there, so make sure to line up your shots, look the enemy dead in its eyes, lick your lips, and then blow them into more pieces than you can count. As for an unarmed weapon, I'm leaving this open to choice as legendary weapons are incredibly random, so it's hard to say what you'll get that's worth using. I personally had a Deathclaw Gauntlet as my main legendary, which I loved using. However, I also had some Bladed Knuckles I had on me in case the gauntlet breaks. That way I've got something else to use up close. For a bit of preference, try to make it something that looks particularly scary. As the final weapon, we have the Bunker Buster, a legendary missile launch you get by progressing through the main story. This comes with a bonus 20% damage as its legendary effect, essentially working as a bonus rank of Demolition Expert. Arguably the more important part about this weapon though is that it comes equipped with the targeting computer as standard, making your missiles lock onto the enemy and fly straight to them. This is particularly helpful when fighting against Scorch Beasts, as it helps to ensure you can fight against them whilst they're in the air. I'd also advise making this weapon single-barreled. This means you can only fire a single missile before reloading, but it significantly reduces weapon weight. Armour for this build isn't too specific. As is often the case, you'll just want to go with whatever the best legendary pieces you can find are. What you most certainly will want though is the clown outfit and clown hat. These really make the build what it is. Running around the lands with explosives is one thing. Running around as a clown, blowing up everything you see and laughing maniacally, is something else entirely. As mutations for this build, I'd recommend trying to get Healing Factor, Marsupial, and Talons. Healing Factor gives you a huge healing boost, making it so you can easily fully heal yourself without relying on aid items. I mentioned previously about taking damage and needing to heal regularly, so this is pretty handy to have while still not providing too huge a debuff with reduced chem effects. Marsupial adds to both jump height and carry weight. Carry weight I've droned on about enough already, so on to the jump height. As well as just being convenient for getting around, it also lets you jump up in the air, shoot a grenade at the ground and avoid taking damage. Great for danger close situations. Finally, the Talons mutation gives a substantial boost to your unarmed attacks, making them far more deadly. Unarmed can already be pretty strong, and this just boosts it further. The clown will embrace his mutations. After all, what doesn't kill you only makes you stranger. When playing as this build, I advise going all out with the fun and crazy side of things. Let your psycho side go free, and just enjoy some pure destruction. Explosions are fun as well as deadly, so don't get yourself too worked up about maxing out every iota of damage. Instead, just detonate someone's face or lead a group of enemies into a car park before turning the whole place into a fireworks show gone wrong. Combat strats are pretty straightforward. Use explosives at range, and when the enemy gets too close, switch to unarmed to save yourself from getting caught in the blast radius. I found I generally switch between my three weapons depending on range, going with the Bunker Buster at the longest engagement range, then the Grenade Launcher, and then finally onto the Deathclaw Gauntlet to smack things in the face up close. When you get right down to it, This build is about enjoying yourself and having a good laugh. Just remember, you can't spell slaughter without laughter. It was obvious that something was wrong with the child. Before he could even walk, he had gained some disturbing behaviours. He would regularly crawl his way into the garden and pull the legs off of insects, or slowly crush them in his hands. As he grew, so too did his prey. Often his parents would find him playing outside, covered in blood and feathers from where he'd been tearing apart a bird that had fallen afoul of his reach. The doctors weren't sure exactly what was wrong with the child. He seemed to be able to act perfectly normal at times, and then would suddenly just start smiling, and stare out of a window, his gaze locked in the middle distance. Therapy had little effect. Not only could the therapist not get through to him, but she ended up throwing herself over the bridge after only a few weeks of sessions. Amidst the disappearances of children at their son's school and rumours of a child killer in the papers, it became difficult for the parents to convince themselves that their son would eventually grow out of a strange behaviour. They couldn't prove he was behind any of the rumours, but they also couldn't be certain he hadn't played a hand in them. The choice of what to do with their son quickly was taken from them, as the bombs rained down from the sky, forcing the family to flee to the safety of Vault 76. Nobody said adjusting to Vault life would be easy, but with a deranged son to deal with as well, it became far too much for the parents to handle. Their arguing was heard throughout the Vault, and the Overseer decided to have them separated, worried that the two would turn to violence to solve their problems. The mother was left with her son, and the father was told to move into another room, at least on a temporary basis. This then left only one pair of eyes to watch over the young child. That pair of eyes needed their rest each and every night, and the kid knew this all too well. The screams echoed throughout the walls of the vault. Terrible, shrill cries, unending and doused with intense pain. Security and residents rushed towards the sounds of the screaming, desperate to save whoever was in danger from the terrible fate that had befallen them. The first guard on scene saw two figures, a small girl lying on the ground with a young boy positioned over her. The guard's eye saw the knife in his hand, and called out a warning to the boy, telling him to drop the knife immediately. The boy acted as if he wasn't even there, instead bringing the knife towards the girl. As she began to scream once more, the guard charged forwards, his colleagues not far behind him. As he reached out to grab the boy, he saw a flash as the knife swung towards him, carving through the soft skin on his face. The boy now had placed his full attention on the guard, and went to swing at him again. The guard grabbed the child's wrist in an attempt to save himself from another attack. The child seemed to have strength far beyond his years, and it was a struggle to keep him under control. Two more guards joined in the struggle, managing to snatch the knife away and hold the child down, shocking him with their batons to render him unconscious, before cuffing his hands behind his back. The girl on the ground was shaking uncontrollably, obviously terrified, but thankfully still alive. She had a multitude of cuts over her face, hands and arms, but none of them seemed to be fatal. The most notable scarring on her face was around the mouth and cheeks. It was difficult to say if the boy had been trying to carve off her mouth entirely, or expand it to horrifying proportions. Regardless of his goals, what he had actually done was brutally disfigure the poor child, in such a way that she would likely never recover. The boy was imprisoned in one of the rooms. They were designed to be able to be locked down if a situation arose, and it most certainly had. The Overseer was a mix of furious and horrified. She had expected some fights here and there, but nothing quite like this. These were clearly the actions of a sick and twisted individual that had no hope of becoming a part of this vault, much less a part of a rebuilt America. For over 2 decades she kept him locked up in his room. They kept him alive with regular food and water, but he was essentially in isolation for all that time, never speaking to anyone else, never touching anyone else, and never hurting anyone else. When it came to Reclamation Day, the Overseer knew that she couldn't let him out with the others. Who knows what he would do? Still, she couldn't bring it upon herself to leave him in the vault either. To do so would be murder, and she was many things, but a killer was not one of them. Instead, she decided to set up his room so that it would only unlock several hours after everyone else's already had. She made sure to inform everyone that they needed to scatter far and wide in order to find land to settle. In truth, it was much more about getting away from the vault as quickly as possible. After all, he wasn't the only individual who had been locked away. Thank you all for watching this build. I hope you are all looking forward to what I've got in store for you in the future. Okay, this video is getting far too creepy now. Let's tone it back down for the outro. Thanks for watching. Less creepy builds coming in the following weeks. Make sure you're subscribed and hit the notification bell if you don't want to miss them. Additionally, hit the like button if you enjoyed and share the video with anyone who wants to play the game as this character. Also, maybe keep a close eye on them. Who knows what else they're planning. As always, thanks for watching. Sarge out.